Greetings and welcome to another reasoning in the Rastafari Reasonings on Africa and Historical Perspective research project at the University of Vienna, Department of African Studies. We are here today together with Kella, Rastafari elder from St. Lucia, and who is one of our project advisors in the Rastafari Reasonings project. And we are welcoming you all to this reasoning today. And we are very happy, of course, to have with us Bongo Tafari, who is the chairman of the Caribbean Rastafari organization. He's also a reparations advocate, elder in the Nyahbinghi house in Nyahbinghi, a member of ICAR, the Nyahbinghi Council for the Advancement of Rastafari, also a member of the National Committee for Reparations of St. Lucia. We are very honored and very happy to have you with us today, Bongo Tafari. Give thanks.
Yes, I give thanks, Rastafari. As we say, glory to word, glory to sound, glory be to the powers of the living eye, Kadamawi, Haile Selassie, and his beloved Empress, Empress Menen Aswa. And I say, hail to the Lord's anointed, great David's greater son. Hail in his time appointed, his reign on earth began. He came to break down oppression and to set the captives free, to take away transgression and to rule in equality. Equality and justice stands for all who know that reparation is now, so too repatriation. So come, make we rally round the red, the gold, the black and green. Your hands and your heart must be pure and clean. Iliai, Selassie, Rastafari. Give thanks, Brother Dominik. You know, it's a pleasure to be on your platform. Give thanks again, Rastafari. Blessed love, Kella, Rastafari.
Blessed love, brethren.
Blessed love, give thanks. And as I said, we welcome our project advisor, also Rastafari elder, also from St. Lucia, Kella, who is of course a longtime brethren of Bongo Wisely. Give thanks for joining us as well today in our reasoning.
Gloriful in words, gloriful to the sound, gloriful in the power of the Most High. Jah, Rastafari.
Give thanks.
Yes. Over land and sea, borders is no difference. Rastafari is international. And I, as Rastafari, I give thanks for the living. I give thanks for every breath of life that I'm still alive to play my duty and to give whatsoever service I can to Rastafari. Praise Jah, Rastafari. It's a pleasure, Dominik, to have such a forum to be present on. It's a pleasure to have Bongo Wisely to represent St. Lucia, to make us understand and to give me a kind of a highlight, which I have been missing for 20 years about St. Lucia. Give thanks and praises, Rastafari. And give thanks to those who is joining us. Be patient with us, be tolerant with us. We are very loving people. Welcome.
Give thanks. Yes, so we want to go straight into it. Bongo Wisely, you have been part of Rastafari history in St. Lucia from the very beginnings, and I think there is no better person than to ask you about the history of Rastafari in St. Lucia and your involvement with the history of Rastafari in St. Lucia, how you got involved, and when that was, and why that was, what was appealing you and attracting you to Rastafari. Maybe you can also give us a little insight in how was the time back then in St. Lucia. St. Lucia got independent very late, so there was still a colonial context. What was the history of Rastafari in St. Lucia, and why was it attracting you and back then young people like you? Give thanks.
Yes, I give thanks, Rastafari. Yeah, man, well, before I go, I just want to acknowledge, some of the participants who are there with I and I. Yeah, man, I want to acknowledge my beloved brethren from Malawi, Brother Emmanuel. Yeah, man, give thanks, my brother. You know, Sister Sama, Sister Naomi, give thanks, Rastafari. Yeah, man, and to the other ones, blessed love, welcome to this IY, you know, as we reason on Rastafari. Perfect love. Yes, I will. The name is Bongo Wisely Tafari from the island of St. Lucia, which we call Nyahbinghi, you know. St. Lucia, the name St. Lucia came about because it is claimed that Christopher Columbus landed there on 13 December, and 13 December, they say is St. Lucy's Day, so they call it St. Lucia. But the indigenous name was Lyanola, and which we right now we say Nyahbinghi, you know? Yeah. It's part of the Windward Islands within the Caribbean, part of this now CARICOM nations, you know? Well, I was born in the northern part of St. Lucia, Grozili, you know, and from a family of a big five family, you know, there were 7 boys, 2 girls, and the parents. So that was 7 and 2, 9 and 2, 11, you know, within the household, you know. So, and at them times there, you know, it was nice, but then, you know, it was tight, a kind of a way, you know. Yeah, man. But I give thanks for the upbringing of my family at the time. You know, well, we kind of grew up in a Eurocentric Christian background, you know, because my parents, them were, well, in fact, I was the first one, because my 3 other brothers before me were christened within the Roman Catholic Church, which was normally the order, you know, but then something happened where, boy, I think my father and the priest must be fall out, you know, kind of a way. So I, you know, for me, we stopped going to the Catholic Church for sanctification. You know, so we did it naturally with the people within the community. You know, yeah, I remember it was an elderly lady who performed that ceremony for I, you know, where they use natural vibes, you know. Yeah. So then, yeah, I grew up, I went to school again at the time, as you say, colonialism is the Roman Catholic Church. Grozili was a fishing village. It was the church, church was one of the main things in the village, very dominant within the village. You know, so, and the French connection, so the Roman Catholic Church, you know, that was the predominant in terms of spirituality for enlightenment. And they were also responsible for the school, the education. So the school, both the church and the school were run by the Roman Catholic people. You know, so that is what we grew up in. You know, then I went to St. Mary's College, you know, in secondary school, again, run by the same Jesuits. Well, they call themselves the Presentation Brothers, and that must be just another branch of the Jesuits and them, you know. So in terms of our education, it was in their hands. It's what they taught us, what they wanted us to know. You know, them kind of a way there. So we grow up, you know, as I say, went to St. Mary's College. And strangely, you know, it was in St. Mary's College I really first got to see like a lecture about Rastafari. And it was coming from no other than Paba Kella. I will know Paba. He's one of the main major priests in the Catholic Church in St. Lucia, Father Patrick Anthony. At that time, he was coming from seminary. He was on vacation, so he came, and during religious knowledge at St. Mary's College one day, you know, he happened to take that subject and talk about Rastafari in Jamaica and how, you know, those people who worship Haile Selassie and so on. And, you know, as a student, that's the first time I really heard about Rastafari. You know, that must be about, well, again, and now, not to say the first time I've heard about Rastafari, because Rastafari started in St. Lucia from about the late 60s, 68, you know, them kind of time, the 69, 70s, you know, so we would have seen some of the early brethren them, you know, who felt the vibe of Rastafari, but then the name was more dreadlocks and, you know, them kind of way there, and, you know, and the way the system, you know, addressed them. Sometimes some of us was even reluctant to even relate to them at that time, you know. But then, as I say, in that lecture form, Patrick Anthony gave us and, you know, spoke about Rastafari and how they worship Haile Selassie as their God and so on. And yeah, and it so happened when I graduated from St. Mary's College, got employed with the Ministry of Agriculture, and boom, they gave me a scholarship to Jamaica. And from there, you know, I really pick up the vibes, you know. So then I remember in my first year, you know, I attended a 12 tribe celebration. It was for the coronation of His Majesty. That was the 2nd of November in 1974, you know, because that was the year I first went up to Jamaica, you know. And from there, you know, now again, as I say, I growing up from a Eurocentric Christian family background, we studied the scripture a lot. You know, we had a lot of Bible studies and all them kind of things. So I was versed within the scripture. Now, attending the 12 tribe session, the coronation of His Majesty in that year, in 1974, and I saw the brethren them using the very same Bible. I was amazed. I said, wait, Rasta is in the Bible and so on, and, you know. Now, hearing them read the epistle, you know, is a total different to how we was accustomed of reading it, you know, during my early days in the Christian environment. You know, so from there, you know, that hit me. So then I start questioning myself now, you know. I start going through the same epistle and so on, and now putting a different mindset, you know. And then I would get a different interpretation, because with the Eurocentric Christian, you know, they make you feel, well, everything white is all right and everything black is the devil, and, you know, that kind of a racial connotation, you know. Yeah, but then the way the brethren them was reading and interpreting the scriptures at the time, you know, I was able to see some of like the apostles which the scriptures speak of as black people and not as white people as it was being taught in the Eurocentric religion. You know, so all of these things kind of brought me closer. It resonated with I, you know, and I started searching, digging for more, searching for more, you know. Rastafari, that time in Jamaica, I started hearing about Rastafari and listening to music, reggae music, and so on. You know, learn 1, 2 things. You know, I returned to St. Lucia in 77. And by that time, Rastafari was well set up already in St. Lucia, I would say. You know? Yeah. So, but there wasn't no organization as such as yet. You know, but in terms of numbers, whether in Castries, in Soufre, different areas, communities, you'd go and you would find brethren who move over to the Rastafari way of life. You know, in terms of where they dash with the comb, you know, they dread up, move up to the hills, living more natural way of life, you know. Yeah, because that is what Rastafari brought forward, you know. Come out of her, my people. Come out of her, meaning Babylon, the system, you know, and the system was more promoting synthetic things, synthesized things and chemicals and, you know, all them artificial things and so on, you know. Yeah. So Rastafari was now moving away. So enough of the brethren them was moving away. Some brethren who were employed in government positions, some of them gave up their job and, you know, moved to the trod, you know. And from then, brethren also move up into the hills because brethren realized they couldn't just stay within the city or the villages. So man started moving into the hills, the higher region, you know, until brethren end up in Monjimi, Monjimi being the highest mountain in St. Lucia, you know. So then from there, again, as we know in life, wherever the righteous is, the evil will always try to find a way in, you know. So brethren them went up in the hills to live in peace, in harmony with nature, with creation, you know, to move away from the pollution in Babylon, you know. That the genuine ones, that was their intention, you know, to drink natural spring water and them kind of things there and so on, you know. But then different ones infiltrated the community as well until we're in the 7th of September, 1977, police invaded Monjimi. There's that famous song, Monjimi Raid, you know, which Itation, the band, has made and popularized, you know. That raid was a very dreadful one because it was an attempt to wipe out Rastafari, you know, because and what happened, you know, is the truth must be told. There was a brethren who, I think, robbed a plantation. You know, there were different plantations in the lower region. You know, he went there, you know, I think they beat up the watchman, they hold up the watchman and they take different items and move up the hills with them things. So after the watchman free up himself, because the owner of the plantation was an individual who was very close to the prime minister. So I guess he called the prime minister, informed him that, you know, them Rasta people raid my plantation, beat up my watchman and so on and thing, you know. So the police go up there with a rage to wipe out the community, you know. And there was a lot of brutality, not different brethren get brutalized, you know, brethren brought down in prison and so on, you know, and all them kind of thing. You know, and it was after that, you know, that the reaction from that, you know, brethren in the city in Castries saw the need now to come together to really organize and present representation for Rastafari, you know, because you have brethren who are now coming out from Jamaica, you know, as Rastafari, you know, because that time the federal boat was circulating around the regions, So you had people from St. Lucia would have travel, go up to Jamaica. Jamaicans would travel, come down, and you had Rastafari people coming, traveling on them boats. You know, so we were able to see certain brethren, Rastafari brethren, you know, on them times there, as well as I see brethren who went to school in Jamaica, got to know about Rastafari, came forward, and it's so, you know, the vibe, as I say, is in the late 60s, you know, the vibe really started bubbling in Nyahbinghi. But in 1978, there was that first coming together of Rastafari, first calling of Rastafari, you know, in what we call Aital Rama, that took place on the 28th of October in 1978 in Georgia Fifth Park in Castries. It was a coming together to show what Rastafari is, you know, whether in food, in craft, in music, you know, in all different forms of expressions, you know. It was like an exhibition of what Rastafari is at the time, you know, real. And it was a very successful one, you know, because it created impression on the minds of a lot of people, you know, because by that time, I myself had just returned from Jamaica in '77. So I was not deep involved in it as such, but I was aware of what was going on. So I attended, you know, and it was later on I really joined the movement as such. Because from that Aital Rama came the Lyanola Rastafari Improvement Association, IREA, the first Rastafari organization, you know. And you had the brethren them who spearheaded the initiative at the time, brethren like Ras Suku, Ras Getru. You had people like Papa, Sister Ainiti. You know, you had people like Abdullah and his Empress Aisha. You had Prince, Ras Prince, you know, and his Ras Prince, Sister Isis was there. You had people like Ulbuski, Lawrence Poyot, you know, those brethren at the time was manifesting Rastafari, you know, and they played a crucial role, you know, because Earl was involved in publishing, you know, so it was out of that initiative came the newspaper calling Rastafari, you know. So these were some of the people who really, the pioneers, to say, of the movement, you know, to really get it off the ground, going, you know. IREA, then from IREA, within IREA at the time, the discrimination was very high. They wouldn't employ you as Rasta. They want your youths to go to school, you know, because they tell you they have to trim and all them kind of things there. Well, endless discrimination, you know, and so on. So IREA now had to take on that mantle of educating the wider community as to what Rastafari is all about, as well as educating its members as to how to keep themselves, how to, you know, maintain the glory of Rastafari. You know, because as we see, St. Lucia at that time is still in the grip of colonialism, you know. So the status quo is to look to Europe, as against Marcus Garvey's call of look to Africa, you know. So you could see, you know, and Rastafari is looking to Africa. So the powers that be at the time, they saw Rastafari as a threat to the status quo, you know. And so, well, you know, the hands of brutality was unleashed on Rastafari. And the police force, unfortunately, was used as for want of a better term, as the weapon of mass destruction to go and destroy Rastafari. You know? Yeah. Because we all know in the late 70s, the 80s, you know, the amount of police brutality that was unleashed on Rastafari, both in the in the countryside, in the hills, as well as in the town, in the villages. You know, there were brethren who would try to earn a living by, you know, open up little ital shop and so on in castries. The police would just come and break that down. You know, and them kind of a way there, you know. Yeah. Create, you know, all the man trying to do a hustle for himself and, you know, break them things down. They're already not giving you work. You know, they would not employ you as Rastafari. And now you're trying to do a thing for yourself and pure brutality, you know. Yeah, so it was really a challenging time, you know, for Rastafari from that time, you know. To now, we can see, well, there have been some changes, you know, in terms of, you know, Rastafari is now able to even educate the system as to who Rastafari is and what Rastafari is all about. So some of them are able to overstand and at least show more tolerance, you know, to the Rastafari movement. Though they may not have full acceptance, but at least they're tolerating the Rastafari movement. And we still give thanks for that, you know, because we know what we're on. We know what we stand for, you know. So we within St. Lucia, as we say, we were not alone because we were getting communication from some of the other islands, you know, as to what is happening as Rastafari. Different people would go and come and so on, you know, because it was through the same area that we were able to attend the first International Rastafari Conference. That was in 1982 in Toronto, Canada, you know. And from there was the 83 conference in Jamaica, you know. Again, IREA was well represented. And from there, now we were able to make connections with the parent house, with the elders in Jamaica, you know. And from there, then you had a delegation from the elders coming to Nyahbinghi in 1986. That's under the guidance of Ras Bonaji's Bongo time, the two patriarchs. And they had some younger brethren with them, you know, on that mission. Came to Nyahbinghi, spent about 2 weeks going around the island, educating, informing people about what Rastafari is all about. Even educating some of I&I, because at that time there was a lot of misconception, you know, amongst I&I as to what Rastafari is all about and who really is Rastafari. At one time, there were brethren who tell you the daughters cannot be Rastafari, you know? Yeah, at a certain time, you know, different other concept, different things, you know, that came up, you know, because different men probably learn Rastafari in St. Croix, probably in the States, in different places, and now coming, you know, come back home and, you know, want to impose some of them things on I&I, you know. Now, some of I&I, well, we had to be cautious. We had to take time to learn. You know, some of us had to learn through the hard way, you know. But we give thanks for all the struggles of the past. You know, it has brought us to where we are today, you know. So some people may feel, well, boy, Rastafari failed. And Rastafari this, we you know, Rastafari ain't do nothing. Because they go see, well, we do have our school, we do have our hospital, we do have our nothing like that, and so on. So they give you a fail mark, you know, but the race, as I say, is not for the swift, but for he who can endure. And Rastafari is not a I-man thing, it's a generation thing. The works I am doing is not for myself, but for the generation, for the nation of Rastafari. So whether I dare to see the fullness of it, give thanks. But make sure the works that I am doing, it is a works where the generation coming can move on to and continue. Because all for one and one for all, you know. But a lot of us still, still get caught up within the system thing of every man for himself, And through that, you find the collective kind of slowing down, Yeah, certain times, some of us, we commit ourselves to the collective where we end up even neglect some of our own personal needs and so on, Again, well, there must be a balance, for it to continue. So these are, the vibes in Nyahbinghi. I can see that Rastafari have made great strides up to this time compared to where we were, from the late 60s, 70s. Some people will say, well, the love, at that time there was more love amongst brethren. It's true. Because at the time, all of us searching, seeking, all of us humble. Because to be searching and seeking, you must enter that spirit of humility, that humbleness, So we humble and we searching. So sometimes why a man diss you and you don't even take that for anything. You continue the journey because you know your mission, where you're heading to, So there was more tolerance. But right now, the way I see it, all men feel, well, boy, they have the knowledge now, they know it. You can tell me nothing, man. I know His Majesty the same way, just like you, and so on, and kind of an arrogance kind of thing. And within Rastafari, what is required is a selfless nature, And unless we are, because His Majesty say you have to deny yourself to follow I. Now, deny yourself, that self, we need to be clear about it, what it really means when you say to deny yourself and follow His Majesty. It doesn't mean just forget about yourself totally, but it's the ego which we have to learn to suppress. Unless we can control that ego, when the glory of His Majesty starts shining upon us, we get carried away and we go off balance and start doing our own thing because the ego take over. So we need to be able to suppress that ego. That's what it means to be selfless. It doesn't mean that you have to forget about yourself. No, because your structure, you have to eat properly, you have to clothe yourself, you have to keep yourself clean, up full, do the works which is required to survive, You can't ignore yourself. So selflessness does not mean to ignore yourself, but it's a matter of being able to control your ego. Because when the ego take over, the I as the individual have no control anymore. So that is some of our problems today. Self-denial is big time also. People, they live in denial. They seen the truth, but still find a way to go around it. And yeah, they don't want to accept the reality. Self-realization crump that thing. Yeah. Self-denial and self-realization is two different, and that is what we need. Self-realization. That's how you'll get to know yourself. And then now when you get to know yourself, then you'll be able to relate to the Creator You'll be able to relate to your brethren and your sister. You know, but until then, you know, there's always a struggle between the irit of truth and the irit of evil. Yeah, man. You know, so as I say in Nyahbinghi, we're supposed to feel proud of our efforts, you know, from the early beginning up till now. There's room for improvement, I must say. You know, even in terms of the unity, it's still lacking. Still more every man for himself. Right now, they have different mansions. There's the Nyahbinghi house, there's the Bobo Shanti house, there's the 12 tribes, you know. These are mansions. Now, ICA supposed to be like an umbrella organization to bring all those mansions together where we could speak with one voice as Rastafari. Now, we don't want to be going there and saying, well, nobody that is for Bobo Shanti or this one. No, it's Rastafari. See, His Majesty Shua and I, you know, that religion is personal, but the state is for all. And the nation of Rastafari, that's what we're building. A nation, a state is for all. So within that state, you will get Bobo Shanti, you will get 12 tribes, you will get Nyahbinghi, you will get men who don't want to be in any of those mansions, but they still acknowledge His Majesty. So they are Rastafari, you see? So ICA, the umbrella organization, is supposed to be that unifying body, but then unless the different mansions acknowledge that, it will not be a reality. It will always be a struggle, you know, because in the same 1983 conference, you know, where, as I said, IREA must have had about 6 of us at that conference in Jamaica in 1983. And out of that conference came the 22-point resolution. The first resolution was to see to it that there's the establishment of a Rastafari sovereign government, a global sovereign government, you know, and secretariat to do the works of Rastafari. Then there was Resolution 9, which spoke about us going in our different territories, because we know colonialism scattered us in different islands. We were supposed to organize ourselves with delegates from all the various mansions coming together. That is where the all mansions, you know, institution vibe came about, you know. But as I say, the mansions themselves, unless the mansions do embrace that philosophy, it will not work. Because what you have, you know, you have brethren, sistren from all the different mansions attending the all mansions gathering, but they attending in their individual or personal capacity. They are not there representing, whether it is the Bobo house or the Bingi house or the 12 tribe, because the 12 tribe did not delegate them to go and represent them. The Bingi house did not delegate them to go and represent them. The Bobo did not delegate those individuals to go and represent them, but they of their own free will attended the meeting because it's Rastafari. You see, so these are some of the issues. Now, even when some of them would take back the report to their mansions, it sometimes, you know, it go in all different ways, you know. There are times the mansions would collaborate with ICA on different occasions, for example, like Marcus Garvey Day, Emancipation Day, and, you know, them kind of days there, you know. But days like Coronation, His Majesty Earth Day, every mansion would keep the ceremony, which is all good and well, you know. the ICANN now would encourage all its members to go the Bobo, go and celebrate, you know, His Majesty Earth Days up. Let's all celebrate. You know, so that is how the unity, you know, will become more functional. You know, it's not just saying it, you know. Yeah, man. So these are some of the challenges, you know, which in Nyahbinghi we're going through presently, you know. Yeah, man. But as we say, we never give up the fight. We always remain confident in the victory of good over evil. Yes, I. Rastafari.
Yes, I, Brother Wisely, give thanks for a brief insight or very long insight, because you reminded me of things I have done which I forgot I have been involved or doing these things. I was also a victim similar to the Monjimi event, like the Zimbabwe Roots Farm. That's how it was developed, because these were the group of brothers who went to the hills to try to live natural, plant the food, be organic, to supply and provide new good, and which were sent out from Babylon. Babylon police came, raid, burn our properties and everything. And that's why we went to the system. And that's why Zimbabwe members was so strong and decided we will not let the system collapse us. Then we start agitating for land and searching. We had to squat an estate. Zimbabwe members almost brought to prison by the estate manager and things like that, that we were able to establish Zimbabwe Roots Farm. And so you gave me a large insight of things and works that, you know, and as you said, from 1978, I myself really cite the movement. That's the first time I attended a Rasta event in the George V Park, which was Mendo Philip Park, something like that. That was the first day I, as a Rasta, felt I am worthwhile, because I was very fresh in the movement. But when I saw those exhibitions, the product, the language, the teaching, and the things we had there, then I felt, okay, that's a real proud movement to be part of it, you know. And all these days and struggling as an individual, our objective for standing up for Rastafarian was very strong among some individuals. But the problem was the way we was attacking it. Everyone had to search. We was voluntary for knowledge. And there was a lot of bad influence knowledges that came in through us and start dividing us, and which is now I'm seeing that is also now abolished. Is not, now I'm seeing, have the feeling like the biggest problem we have is this individualism. And as you said, that selfishness, we have to acknowledge His Majesty teaching or the right truth, no matter from whom it's coming from. And if it's truth, it's truth. And we should just pick up and look into that. And as you mentioned, we should have things that belongs to us. Every individual Rasta can take care of himself, but there's nothing for one who cannot take care of himself. And this is the things we have to administer as a body. And I'm very proud that you have confidence that some of the achievement is there and we're still going forward. Give thanks and praises.
Rastafari. Yes, I.
Yes, give thanks. And Bongo Wisely, as you gave this overview of Rastafari history in St. Lucia and your own involvement, and as you said, you came back from Jamaica in 1977. I think, as far as I remember reasoning with Dai, you came back already as a Rastaman, but you were still working in the Nyahbinghi St. Lucia government at that time then. And you mentioned also there was quite a pressure from the St. Lucia government also on the other hand, and against Rastafari, and it was still a colonial context. And you mentioned those brethren, because of those pressure, who had to go into the hills, like, for example, Zimbabwe Roots Farm. So also from your own experience, where you said, well, Rastafari was seeing the biblical interpretation, questioning colonial Christianity, and seeing a new perspective. Why do you think, from all this now that you have mentioned, and what Kella has mentioned, you know, that once had even to go into the hills because of the pressure, why was Rastafari so threatening to colonial society and colonial structures and colonial hegemony. We can say maybe in St. Lucia, but not only in the, but in the Caribbean. You saw it also in Jamaica. You said you were at the Rastafari International Theocratic Assembly, RITA, in 1983 in Jamaica. And you are now, of course, the chairman of the Caribbean Rastafari organization. So you see it in the Caribbean as a whole. Why was Rastafari such a threat from what you have just now explained, what Rastafari is all about? Give thanks.
Yes, I give thanks. Well, yeah, we have to put it in historical perspective, because remember, where we coming from. See, like up to the time of the Emancipation Act, which was 1834, and kind of a times there, you know, the so-called Emancipation Act, which compensated the colonizers, whereas our African descendants were ignored. Not a cent they got, apart from endless salt meat and salt this and salt that. You know, the food was, you know, contaminated food. Is it? Coming down the line. When the Emancipation Act was passed in Parliament in Britain, you know, our ancestors, their cry at the time was, no reparation, no emancipation. Because what they realized is that it's only the colonizers were being compensated. So and we know how our ancestors worked hard on the plantation. All the glory, all the light things in Europe today coming from the blood, sweat, and tears of our ancestors on the plantation. You see? So emancipation come, and you see it was just like a compromise, you know? Yeah, to still favor the colonizers. They were the ones who remained in charge of the governments of the day, you know, and so on. So by the time the 60s, St. Lucia, as I said, was still under colonialism, colonial rule, because we had, at that time, we had a British administrator, you know. People like George Charles and them was just starting to agitate for, you know, as, you know, worker union members, you know, they were agitating for power, for, you know, for authority, because they considered the white man, you know, and so on, you know. So by the time St. Lucia got statehood in 67, and it got independence in 79, you see? So the influence, colonial influence was strong. All the businesses, all the things is owned by colonial people. So Rastafari coming there now and preaching Africa, you know, it was a threat to them, because they wanted us to preach red, gold, red, white, and blue. Yeah, that's the flag they wanted us to show all our allegiance to. King George, Queen Elizabeth. Is it? But Rastafari come and say, no, Haile Selassie is our God and King. Yeah. So right away, they saw Rastafari as a threat to the status quo. So the police force was used as the instrument to try and quell them things. You know, we know of instances where the Prime Minister telling people, shoot and ask questions later. You know, shoot them. As soon as you see them, shoot them. If they die, if anything, if they don't die, then we'll ask questions. You know? Yeah. So that is because they saw Rastafari as a threat to their intentions to maintain colonial rule within those islands. Yeah, so it's from that perspective, you know, Rastafari was not worshiping their Jesus. Rastafari come talking about Haile Selassie is our God and King. Because look at even Leonard Howell in Jamaica, when he told them, no, King George is not our king. Haile Selassie is our king. And the same thing, Howell is considered one of the most brutalized individual, you know. The amount of brutality he went through because of his association with Haile Selassie. And it's the same thing with Rastafari today. Because of our identity with Haile Selassie, with Africa, you know? Yeah. So that's the bottom line of the thing, because we know the colonial government, we know where their root is coming from. White supremacy. You see? And Rastafari, Africa, defends reality, the truth. Yeah. Yes, so these are the reasons, you know, why they were so upset with Rastafari, even up till today. Yes,
Seeing, give thanks. And you said because Rastafari was looking to Africa, and of course our university project is called Rastafari Reasonings on Africa in Historical Perspective. So we are right in that. And as you just now explained it, the power also to dismantle and to rebel against colonial societies just by speaking about Africa and identifying with Africa. And then, of course, that entails repatriation, that one said we have a right to return, and that should come with reparations. Maybe you can also give us an overview of when and why Rastafari started to, in St. Lucia, in the Caribbean in general, to agitate for reparations and what that means, because now we see a lot of reparation discourse on different levels, as also we see it on the CARICOM level. But now, what is the unique contribution you would say that Rastafari has made? And as one of the first, Rastafari was speaking about reparations, including repatriation, and was agitating and pressuring for it when there was a lot of persecution involved. What was that unique, or is still this unique contribution that Rastafari makes to the reparation discourse and the fight for reparations? Give thanks.
Yes, I give thanks. Well, again, as I said earlier on, you know, from the emancipation era, the cry of our ancestors were no reparation, no emancipation, because they realized that it was only the colonizers who were being compensated. You see? So they've been crying for reparations since 1834. Marcus Garvey took up the banner. Yes, it was Back to Africa movement. You know, watch how they ignored Marcus Garvey. They denied him. They betrayed him. Bagawaya, Catch a Fire. Yeah, Marcus Garvey died almost pennilessly because, you know, he was ignored. And the message which Marcus Garvey was preaching is the truth. Is what is rightfully needed. You know? So today Rastafari has picked up from where Marcus Garvey left off. You know, and we're flying the banner of Back to Africa, which is repatriation, you know, with reparations. You see? Because it went to I mean, it is not only Rastafari who is calling for reparations. As I said, from our ancestors from such time. You know, there are a number of other Pan-Africanist institutions, groups and so on, who are engaged in the whole reparation struggle. In 2001, there was the World Conference Against Racism, which the United Nations organized, that took place in South Africa, where all the world leaders came together to discuss issues surrounding racism. Well, the World Conference Against Racism and Xenophobia and all different other isms and schisms, you know. And out of that conference, the findings came out that slavery, first slave trade, slavery, colonialism, and native genocide, as well as the continuation of colonialism after emancipation. Most of these were crimes against humanity. And they being crimes against humanity means that there's need for redress. There's need for reparations, you know? So as I said, at that conference in South Africa, United Nations conference, that is the findings. And a plan of action was discussed by the participants as well. And within one of the points in that plan of action was in terms of the redress that the leaders in Africa have to offer I&I in the diaspora that welcome return. Because remember, we never run away from Africa, you know. We were stolen away from Africa and brought to the West, you know. Yeah. Upon emancipation, they had the opportunity to return, had to be presented, but it was not, you know. So hence the reason why we are here today, 2023, 2024, calling for reparations, calling for repatriation, you know. So Rastafari has always been, as I say, in the forefront, because from such times, you know, from the time of Leonard Howell, we burn down colonialism. Yeah. I are born down colonialism. You see, so we're walking in the light of His Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I, you see, which is Africa, Ethiopia, you know. And when His Majesty, most of the times, you know, in the speeches, when His Majesty referred to Ethiopia, he was referring to the whole continent, you know. You see, because Ethiopia was the one who remained with its identity and its sovereignty. The others were colonized. You see? So Ethiopia, the whole continent was Ethiopia, but when the Germans take a piece, they put their name. When the British take a portion, they give it their name. When the French come, they give it their names and so on. But Ethiopia remained untouched. You know, so the whole continent belongs unto I&I, is our homeland. Yeah. So now, you know, as I say, Rastafari has been clamoring for repatriation with reparations from the onset. But again, our leaders, the CARICOM leaders, you know, they never really take heed to that, because some of them, as I say, were still colonial instruments, because most of them either went to university, you know, in England, in America, you know, wherever, in France, you know, and come back to rule, you see? So Rastafari cry never abated. Then in 2013, the CARICOM heads of government decided to entertain the CARICOM, the reparations campaign. Meaning, yes, there were leaders who've been always agitating, coming up with that, but collectively, you know, they would either be outnumbered or whatever. You know, but in 2013, they collectively decided that, yes, we will go take on the reparations campaign. the established National Reparations Commission, a CARICOM Reparations Commission was established. And the CARICOM Reparations Commission now asks in every island, every country of CARICOM that they establish national reparations committees, and the chairperson of the National Reparations Committee would be the representative on the CARICOM Reparations Commission. So that is the link between the government and the people, the grassroots people. Because when we speak of reparations, it is not a government thing. Reparations belongs to the people. Because the people who work on the plantation, the government are there probably to supervise or to be the channel, the conduit by which those things may be reaching the people, because they are in authority, they govern the country, right? So they have their role to play, and through the National Reparations Committee, now, we had to reach out to the government. So within the National Reparations Committee, in almost most of the islands, Rastafari is well represented on those National Reparations Committee. The Caribbean Rastafari Organization, on the onset of the CARICOM Reparations Commission, we wrote to them, letting them know, reminding them of our role, our contribution towards reparations. So we feel that as though we are entitled to be on that CARICOM Reparations Commission. At the time, they indicated, well, it was not possible. That was 2013, 2014. But then in 2018, I guess, learning through errors and mistakes and so on, they realized that the way they had the CARICOM Reparations Commission structured, it is not effective enough. So they now agree to bring in civil society organizations, because the National Reparations Committee is still seen as a government institution, because the government established it in all the islands. You see? So they decide to now bring in civil society organizations, and that is where the CRO comes in. Even other groups like CPAN, the Caribbean Pan-African Network, they also, were invited. There are other civil society groups, which have been invited to be part of the CARICOM Reparations Commission. So the voice of Rastafari is there, And so in terms of initiative, as we say, repatriation, because CARICOM came up with a 10-point plan for reparatory justice. The first one was calling for the apology, and the second one deals with repatriation. Now, that is what is closest to our heart as Rastafari, because from the onset, we've been calling for repatriation with reparations, So the Caribbean Rastafari Organization has come up with that initiative, which is called the RSAP Project, Reparation for Settlement in Africa Project. Because repatriation, again, a lot of people feel, well, repatriation because they can buy a ticket and go back to Africa, that's repatriation. It can be, but repatriation is something we have to be structured, it have to be organized. As we say, there must be the welcome return. Because when most of brethren and sisters who go over, when they reach, either they are visitors or foreigners, they have to wait probably how many years before they can get, naturalization or whatever. Or if they have business, Probably they are able to get things through their business, you know, which is all good and well. But the real repatriation, where as part of what came out of the World Conference Against Racism, the welcome return and the establishment of settlements, you know, this is something where you need government to government intervention, right? Because the government, the African government who would be receiving us when we coming over, you know, things have to be organized in a way where land, other infrastructural development which are necessary, the government would be responsible to deal with those. You know, we may, some of us have business, we come in with our business to set up in Africa. Now those businesses will create employment, it will generate, you know, things to boost up the economy. So we now should not be utilizing our proceeds funds to go and to buy land, to cut road, to do this. And so, you know, there's supposed to be some kind of arrangement to facilitate us coming in. And that is where we see the government to government negotiations have to be there, you know? So in terms of the repatriation issues, that is what, because when we in repatriation, we don't want to be going to Africa and to see, well, separate ourselves or isolate ourselves from the African people, you know. The settlement is supposed to be an integrated one, you know? Yeah, because as we say, we would be creating employment with those of us coming with business enterprises would create employment. So we need to hire the African brothers and sisters, you know? Whether we're setting up a school, you know, we may need to educate even the people, the children of the African people. So that settlement thing have to be an integrated one. We don't want it to be an isolation thing like what happened in Guyana with Jim Jones, where they go all by themselves and, you know, and hide away from the general community. You know, there must be an integrated approach, you know, because as I say, we are Africans and we are returning to our African brothers and sisters. So we have to find ways and means to work together, live together, play together. That's how we see the whole repatriation initiatives unfolding. Rastafari.
Yes, give thanks, Bongo Wisely. We are now more than 1 hour in this reasoning, and as we said, after 1 hour, after we have basically laid the ground, we would now also open up the floor for ones to come in and ask questions and join the reasoning about any of the aspects that were reasoned about so far. Please just use the function to raise your hand, so that if ones would like to contribute to the reasoning, we see the raised hand, and then just come forward to join the reasoning, ask questions. This is now the opportunity. Give thanks. So far, no questions yet.
Well, in between, I can bring in and maybe highlight one of the two issues Bongo Wisely have straightly, lengthily discussed with reparation, repatriation. And what I might ask Bongo Wisely is how we differentiate these two initiatives. You explain many ways that it can be done, but I would remember in the 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, this word reparation was not even existing in our calendar. All Rastafarian was just focusing on repatriation. And after time repatriation, most brethren consider repatriation is once I cite Rastafari I have already repatriated my mental state or my knowledge. And most brethren was saying repatriation is not something like a physical movement going into Africa. And now the topic is now reparation, which is now, I think is more challenging, but it's more popular or more demanding than repatriation, because reparation entails all aspects of the African descendant, which is not only Rasta, but from all aspects of, or all denominations from our descendant African people. How we approach it now to define exactly who is into repatriation and what reparation can help repatriation, how reparation helps repatriation exist. Because the Rasta before are more focusing, most of us, on repatriation, because reparation represents a whole larger body of our ancestors, but how Rastafarian sees the approach, how reparation will help repatriation, or how repatriation help reparation. Yeah.
Yes, I give thanks. Yeah, well, again, reparations. Reparation has two sides. What we would call internal reparations as against external reparations. External reparations would deal with the debt which is owed to our ancestors for their energy, their efforts on the plantation from such times. Now, internal reparation is the self-healing, the healing process which we, the injured people, needs to go through to return ourselves to our wholesomeness. You know, because we cannot underestimate the damage done by colonialism to us as a people. You see? So the reparations, meaning the self-healing aspect, is very important, just like the external reparation side, which is the debt which is owed. You know? Now, in terms of that internal healing, that internal reparation, Rastafari, I can say, is one who is on that journey, in the sense that we've acknowledged what colonialism did to us, how they took us away from our culture, away from our realities. And now Rastafari is that road which is leading us to self-awareness, self-realization, you know, where we get to know ourselves, you know, even the names which we were given. A lot of us have colonial names. Now, your name is very important in identifying who you are. So when they give you a colonial name, which means they identify you as a colonial subject. You see, so in terms of correcting that damage, hence the reason why a lot of us have changed our names. Yeah, give it more of an African identity, you know, because we are Africans. Though we're born within the diaspora, but we are Africans. So our name's supposed to identify who we are. You see? So even the way we deal with one another, you know, the respect, you know, and so on for one another. Colonialism has taught us to hate one another. You see? So all now, we still hate our brothers and our sisters. Yeah. And that is why all the crime and violence which is happening today, you know, is happening because our people are still traumatized, you know? Yeah, from the effects of what colonialism did to us, you know? So we need that psychological healing, you know? But we don't want to be returning to Africa still traumatized. No. So that all of that is part of the reparations which we need. It's not just only money, the money, the money, the money. You know, our spirituality that was taken away from us, and what we were given, religion. You know, yeah. The way we, you know, our institutions, that the way we were educated, you know, our institutions, most of them were headed by Jesuits in St. Lucia, whether from the village, the Grosile Primary School was controlled by the Roman Catholic Church. St. Mary's College was controlled by the Presentation Brothers. All of them are Jesuits, you know. But through the powers of His Majesty, I go through that fire, but never got burnt. We're still able to rise up and chant Rastafari today. You know? Yeah. Some will say it, well, as what is to be will always be, you know? Yeah, but we have to just give thanks to His Majesty, you know, that we were able to survive and rise up, you know? And now we're hoping that the generation coming will be able to continue that mission, that journey, you know, because even when the OAU was established in 1963 with the African leaders, one of the aims of the OAU was to dismantle colonialism. And today, our leaders, even within CARICOM, when you look at our leaders today, they are still colonial tools. They've right now made themselves comfortable in a neo-colonial zone. Yes, we may see, yes, people we go to school with is Prime Minister and so on today, and the other ministers are, yeah, man, we know on the block and so on. But the whole mentality is still of a neo-colonial one. They are not prepared to dismantle colonialism. You see? And that is our mission as Rastafari, to dismantle colonialism. You know? Yeah. So the struggle continues. We will never give up the fight, as we say, you know. But it will take time, and that's where education comes in. And that is what we need to be concentrating on, educating ourselves, educating our brothers and sisters, you know, so that we could come to that fullness and that unity, you know, Rastafari. Yes, I.
Give thanks. Yes. Still ones can come into the reasoning. Please just raise your hand, and then the ones can come in. In the meantime, since there is now mentioned education, which is I also wanted to come to, as we both took part, for example, in the School of Sacrament Rastafari University, summer school in St. Lucia, 2024. I am a graduate assistant of the School of Sacrament. 2022, yes, of course.
Yes,
and time is running. It's already 2 years. And from some of my notes, I was also joining as a teacher in that space. I remember there from my notes, you were saying we are here to educate the masses to decolonize our minds. And you said it was very important that the students that SOSACRU, the School of Sacrament Rastafari University, was bringing in students from North America directly to learn directly, as you said it, to learn from the horse's mouth, so to say, to learn directly from ones and ones. and the importance of education and to learn directly from sources. Since you have now mentioned education and the importance of education also for reparations, for repatriation, for decolonizing, why you think is education so important, and what is the kind of education that Rastafari would like to see and maybe even contributes to this whole struggle, anti-colonial struggle? Give thanks.
Yes, education. Well, education generally is the acquiring of knowledge. But His Majesty show I and I, if the education we have does not satisfy our intrinsic nature, it is more or less useless, because a lot of us went to school, we were educated by the, as I say, by the Jesuits influence institutions. We acquire knowledge, yes, how to be subservient, how to serve massa and them kind of way there, But then now our real, true knowledge, which we needed, they never gave us that, is in our quest. When the revelation of Rastafari start to hit us, then we realize we need to go outside of the box and search for more knowledge. You see? So then now we're able to come across more African-oriented knowledge, And that is where we know we have really embraced that, because that is ours. Because Marcus Garvey tell you, a people with no knowledge of the past history is like a tree without roots. But in terms of our past history, they never taught us that. They make us feel that our civilization started in St. Lucia, 1502, when Columbus discovered her. But then the glory of our ancestors, all of that they try to hide away from us. So education is very important. His Majesty say education of the mind is one of the surest guarantee for a brighter future, for a brighter nation. So the youths, them have to be educated. His Majesty led by example, where he turned his palace into a university, where the Ethiopians would come and learn and get educated. So within Rastafari, we have to continue that same tradition of educating the people. Well, in St. Lucia, for example, as we see, all the schools are still controlled by the government or whoever, And those people, we all admit, they are still colonial oriented. There are one, two who try to, to bring in the real, authentic African knowledge, but they are usually outnumbered, So Rastafari now need to set up our own institutions. Within the Nyahbinghi house, we normally have every first and third Sunday, we normally have theocracy reasoning. Now, theocracy reasoning is supposed to be reasoning where we come to learn more about the Almighty, more about the Creator, more about life, more about how to keep ourselves within that proper perspective, is it? But then again, when the day comes, it's only a handful of ones would show up, So it's a lot of things, but then we cannot deny the fact that education and proper education, is very important. Rastafari, give thanks.
Give thanks for sharing. And since this is the Rastafari Reasonings project at the University of Vienna, and also, of course, within the School of Sacrament Rastafari University, and the summer school we had in St. Lucia, and the immersion of the students coming from abroad and into Rastafari knowledge systems and understanding. So also from one of my notes, I remember you teaching the students to say, now specifically speaking about reasonings, and also reasonings as a specific approach of Rastafari teaching and knowledge sharing and understanding and creating understanding. And you said that some dismiss reasoning as a talk shop, but it is actually a therapeutic tool. And I think that maybe linked to what you said to the internal reparations, maybe you can give us an understanding of what is reasoning actually and what it can contribute, maybe a better understanding that Rastafari can teach to people beyond Rastafari when it comes to education, when it comes to especially how colonial systems of education have educated and have understood education. How is reasoning maybe different? And as you say, that is not just a talk shop. Give thanks.
Yes, I will. Reasoning, as even in the scriptures it is stated, come, let us reason together, saith the Most High. Though your sins be as scarlet, the sage shall be white as snow. But we know the racism connections, they use, scarlet and snow. But the reasoning among people, because reasoning is where minds come together to discuss issues. Now, that reasoning could either be boisterous, cantankerous, or it can be harmonious. It's we now to determine what the outcome. There are times, yes, we call a reasoning, ICA call a meeting, and we're discussing certain issues. And there may be one or two individuals who want to come and make noise within the reasoning. Now, in making the noise, to some people, well, it will come like as it's just a talk shop going on, Now, that is where discipline comes in, Because reasoning could also be two individuals reasoning together, one-on-one, as well as it could be a collective reasoning. Where, for example, I can have a general meeting and the chairman or the president is delivering an address, or some invited speaker is making an address, and the audience is supposed to listen. And then now, after probably the person is completed, then there would be time for interaction. And that is the gist of reasoning, So reasoning is very important. We learn from reasoning, Things you are not aware of, you get to know. Things you are not too sure of, you get the opportunity to ask questions. And you get clarification. That's what reasoning is all about. And also, you reason with a brethren or sister, you reason a certain point. That doesn't mean you end there, you drink it right away. You still probably do some more research on that to really confirm, Yeah, so knowledge always increasing, knowledge always changing, So knowledge is not static or stagnant, So never feel well as though you know enough, so you don't want to listen to that man. I know that already, and so on. That kind of a mentality is not encouraging within a reasoning session. Even though you come within the reasoning session and a point is raised and you're familiar with that point already, there are those who are not familiar. So don't try and, because you know it, to try and disrupt it. There are those who need to learn, so be patient. That is where, again, the self thing comes in, the ego, because the fact that you already heard that point, so you didn't want to hear it again, but they're not realizing that there are other ones who are not familiar with that point and who need to hear it. You know, so you have to prevent, you should prevent being an obstacle to them getting that knowledge. So all that is part of reasoning, you know, discipline of the mind, you know, and it's through education, as His Majesty said, we will be able to discipline ourselves. You see? So reasoning, it pros and cons in the sense that you can get some that can be cantankerous and boisterous and create conflict, and you have reasoning that will bring edification, will bring enlightenment. And that is what we would like to see happen most of the time. That at least people, when they leave the reasoning, they would have learned something new. They would have gained an experience which was new to them. You know? So that is where reasoning and the importance of reasoning comes in. For us to exchange knowledge and to acquire knowledge. Yes, sir.
Give thanks. Well, since we are reasoning, I would appeal to listeners, viewers, or those joining us, please free to join us, make a contribution, share your views, because reasoning is for us all. So try to participate and share your opinion with us, please.
Give thanks. Yes, I think I saw Brother Emmanuel Mulenga raise his hand. Please come forward, unmute your microphone, please, and come forward. Give thanks.
Greetings in the name of His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie, Mighty One. I'm Alinafe Ronald from Malawi. In fact, my name, when we interpret it in English, it goes Emmanuel. Then the breeding by me, we share the same name, Rastafari. So I joined the composition since from the first. I've been hearing the whole composition since the start. The point I want to encourage brethren and sisters, wherever we are, black the whole world. We talk about the relevant issues here, more relevant, more encouraging. Wherever we are, we have to gain positivity out of this listening, and we have to discipline ourselves and learn more as we can. From Malawi, we learn a lot from our brethren and sisters, wherever you are in diaspora. And when we talk about the history of Rastafarian livity from Jamaica and from the islands of St. Lucia, Barbados, everywhere we are, we as Rastafarian. In Africa, we get so encouraged, and we knowing where we are coming from by history of slavery and what we have gone through as Black people, and then as Rastas as far as livity is concerned, we have gone through struggles, very hard conditions, very critical situations, neglected, misused, abused, and then rejected. All those is too painful to we Rastas here back home in Africa, where when we hear about repatriation, yes, we give thanks that repatriation it should be a must. Yes, it should be a must. We are waiting for our brethren and sistren. We are feeling the pain. We are feeling the same pain our brethren and sistren felt in those times of slavery, working in plantations, and the very same time meeting the cruelty from colonial masters. And we have the history, we have books, but the problem with education we learn here back home in Africa as well, you can see we are under colonial powers. And the education, the syllabus we are using, you can see we have the summaries of our history about slave trade. Yeah? We have the summary. They cannot teach us the whole of thing what happened. When we talk about raping of our children, raping black women, all those atrocities they did, and they cannot talk it. They cannot put it in syllabus where we are learning in these schools. Meaning to say, they are removing what they did, and they give us very little. Even Rastafari, when they talk about Rastafari, they only talk very little, where they come to say he's the father of African Union. They just talk a very little summary, meaning to say they had lots of information away from black children, from Africans. Now today you can see the same name Rastafari. It seems to be something strange, a strange name. It is only circulating among Rastafarians, meaning to say we are being denied more information about ourselves by these colonial schools. And then you can just only get it full information when you rise as a Rastafarian. Is when you get genuine pure education. That's the quality of education we require, we need to acquire within our brethren and sistren. When we talk about our ancestors, when we talk about slavery, our ancestors could have been telling us the history of the full history from where we are coming from. But today, our parents cannot explain very well about Rastafari and how black people suffered during that slavery time. And when we talk about repatriation now and then reparations, it's something also about, it's something strange to them. It's we youths who now can speak about this, but you can see our parents, is something very strange. Now, we talk about the genuine education to Africans and to our brethren and sistren in diaspora. We need a very, very genuine one, right from diaspora and here at home. We have to work hand in hand. When we talk about divine, we talk about ironity. That's what we have to look for. Then we have lots of challenges. Oh yes, we need to come together. Rastafari, you have to come together and work this out. Now, in this listening, I get so much encouraged, and when I listen to our elders, yes, we are touching very relevant points where I get encouraged, I get inspired, and yes, I come back to encourage brethren and sisters wherever you are. We are looking forward to your return, and with the issue of reparation, yes, can come in if they are there to take over that and sort it out. Yes, they must sort it out. Then when I I heard about I heard the king of Netherlands apologizing, apologizing about that slave trade, apologizing to say we are apologizing because my nation, yes, did take part in this evil. They did take part in this evil, meaning the rest should follow suit. And then I heard brethren and sisters saying we don't just want apology. We also need reparations. The reparations, then we can go back to Africa. We can repatriate. Now, reparations and repatriation, yes, it can go along. But if we are fit to come back without those reparations, yes, we can, but we suffered a lot. And we here back home in Africa, yes, we also suffered spiritually, physically, mentally. Until now, we have those bruises about slavery. We feel lots of pain until today because of our ancestors who were taken away from us. We are in lack of huge knowledge from our ancestors and from brethren and sisters who were taken away in a very brutal way, in a very tricky way, in a very reckless way. So we are feeling that pain. And when we hear about repatriation, it's a message of comfort. We give thanks unto Rastafari, the Most High, because he spearheaded this to say, my people must come back. If they are denying this, then they must face fire, because the history is judging them. And they come before their knees to say, yes, we accept this. Yes, it happened. And when others are denying, they are denying because it's huge to pay. It's huge. They know they will remain with no euros, no dollar, because they overused us and abused us a lot. We are feeling so much pain everywhere we are, in diaspora and here back home. Rastafari.
Give thanks.
Give thanks, Brother Wisely. I don't know if you want to give a feedback on that, brethren from Africa. I think he made a very strong point as an African living in Africa with Rastafarian message. I think he has that. He feels a bigger pain than we that was being taken away from there. So I don't know if you want to make a comparison as to the pain between we that was brought out and those that are stayed there, and they are still mistreated worse than those that was taken out.
Yeah, yes, I will give thanks, my brethren, from Malawi. Give thanks to have the item, Yeah, well, colonialism not only had an effect in the diaspora, but on the motherland as well. Even all now, we're seeing, like with the Francophone regions, we're seeing now how the youths and them rebelling because they say enough is enough. And when more and more now we're getting to realize how France was exploiting those Francophone countries with certain treaties which they forced them to sign when they claimed they were giving them independence. You see? So the colonial damage on the motherland is rampant, just like it is in the diaspora. Some may even say it worse. You see? Because a lot of the leaders, a lot of the assassinations that have taken place in Africa, whenever an African leader decides to stand up for truth and right, the colonial masters use his own brother to assassinate him and put a puppet. Yeah. So the internal healing, the internal reparations is needed in Africa same way. So the brother is right. You see? So it's we now, even Well, right now, the diaspora is considered the sixth region in Africa. But the leaders, because right now the African Union is supposed to bring that unification. The African Union is in disarray all now. The same divide and rule strategy of the colonialists, it's working within the African Union all now. Yeah. You see, so a lot of those leaders need to vanquish, because we need the right faces in the right places. And a lot of the leaders there within Africa are puppets, just like in CARICOM, same way too, you know, no difference. A lot of them take bribes with the colonial masters. And instead of they develop the country, the people, they develop their self and their clique, whether it's just the members of their political party or, you know, them kind of a way there. And the colonizers just exploiting the country. Like in Africa, what we see, all the minerals and so on, the DRC, for example, the Democratic Republic of Congo is one of the richest regions on this planet Earth, you know, in terms of minerals and, you know, things that are needed in the technological world today. And yet the DRC is considered one of the poorest countries in Africa. Because what the colonial masters doing, they create confusion, disturbances within the country. They arm that set of people to have them go and fight against their own brothers and sisters. And whilst they're fighting, the colonial master, they're digging out all the resources and going and sending it back to Europe. You see? So our African leaders need to wake up the same way too and put an end to that. Get rid of them puppets and put the rightful leaders, the right faces in the right places. You see? Yes, I overs what the brethren is saying, you know, the need for Africa and the diaspora. We all need to put our hands together to deal with that whole reparations issue. Because reparations is not only for us in the diaspora, but also for those on the motherland. They need to be repaired as well. They are traumatized just like us in the West. You see? So it's a whole synergies we need to build, you know, to really get back that holistic man, you know, which we were before the invaders arrived. Yeah, man. So I fully overstand where the brethren is coming from, you know, Rastafari.
Yes, give thanks. And since this reasoning touched also upon, as you said, leaders in the CARICOM, leaders on the African continent, and that touches, of course, on development, we could say Pan-African development, African development in the diaspora, as well as on the continent as one African development. And I think you already went a bit in that direction. What or how does Rastafari now see African development? You said already it is much about the consciousness and the consciousness of the leaders, but in general also, where would you like to see African development go? Where do you see it now with, as you said, with many leaders who maybe are within some neo-colonial context and in a Pan-African aspect, not just the continent, but in a Pan-African context, African development worldwide, basically wherever there is African diaspora. Give thanks.
Yes, well, His Majesty sure and I, you know, wherever there is African blood, there's the potential for unity. So whether you're on the motherland, whether you're in the diaspora, is the mindset Remember, His Majesty also say Africa awaits its creators. Who are the creators of Africa? The cream of the crop that was taken during chattel slavery and sent down to the West, you know, where we were able to get access to knowledge, different other experiences, and so on. You know, it is our responsibility to return Africa to its ancient glory. So that is why the repatriation initiative is a must. Because before the invaders, Africa, the civilization in Africa had reached heights, certain levels where, you know, we don't even have today. So now with the technology and so on, which is available to different learning institutions, we can see to it that Africa return to its ancient glory. And that is our mission, you see? Because whatever, you see, because as I mentioned earlier on, just the case with the DRC, it is considered one of the richest locations on this planet. And yet the people are considered one of the poorest in Africa. You know, it's a big contradiction, you know. And why is that happening? Colonialism again. Because what they do, they put the people at war with one another. And while the people they're fighting, they're, you know, excavating all the resources and sending it in the country and making exorbitant profits at the expense of the African people. So we Africans need to wake up. And that is the time, you know, where we need to wake up and self-determination, determine what is ours rightfully, you know, and start to control what is ours. Because all the glory of Europe today is at the expense of Africans, whether in the diaspora or on the motherland. Is it? So if we Africans now can own up, man up, and own up our resources, that will make a big difference in the way things are in the world today. Is it? Because that is what colonialism, it reverses the order of things and make people feel, well, boy, the white man is inferior, the white man is superior, and black people inferior. You see? And the whole education system, as I said, you know, was geared to feed into that notion, you know. So even though you go to university, you come out with your degree, your master's or whatever, you know, but the foundation of that education is based on maintaining that illusion, which is colonialism, of white supremacy and so on, you know. So right now we need to come within ourselves as African people, African descendants, self-realization. That's what we need, you know, because they beat our self out of us, our spirit. They beat that out and indoctrinated us with their own doctrine, you know. So we now need to unlearn a lot of what they've taught us and relearn the true education, the true knowledge, our African indigenous knowledge. That is what will bring us back to our glory, you know. So it is a transition, it is a process, it is taking time, and that is where, again, education comes in, you know. Internal reparations, again, you know, self-healing. Because if we are hurt inside, we are traumatized. Even whatever the good we're doing, it is still limited. You see, so we need to heal ourselves first. Then Africa will be able to return to its ancient glory. Well, politically, right now, the diaspora is considered the sixth region of Africa. So we're getting closer and closer. So the important thing is the mindset, the mentality. As Bob said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. So the internal healing, I said, is we to do it among ourselves, for Black people, by Black people. That's what it is all about. So now for it to happen, that self-realization, that awakening needs to take place. Because as I say, a lot of us are still traumatized. So that's where it is. We have to come to that realization of where we are, and then the return process we will take. So now, even with the repatriation, some people saw repatriation just as a spiritual thing. Yeah, man, from since I, acknowledge His Majesty, I repatriate already, But it is much, everything, as I say, so above, so below. Whatever in the spirit have to manifest in the flesh. You see? So yes, the spiritual repatriation will take place first. And then now that will drive the eye to realize the need for the physical repatriation. There are a lot of people who repatriated physically, but spiritually they were not prepared. Some of them had to run back because they realized they were not prepared. So it is both a spiritual as well as a physical thing. Yeah. As it is above, so it is below. We can divide the two, But as we say, it's a process. So we now need to first think our mind, because everything starts with the thought. You see? So when your thoughts are aligned to Africa, to the African-centric vibrations, energies, that is the beginning of repatriation, yes. But then now I will come to realize the need to find yourself on the motherland. Yes, so it's both ways, both physical and spiritual. Some at the time, probably some of the earlier brethren was only pushing one, still it's only the spiritual, probably due to lack of knowledge. As His Majesty say, our people suffer due to lack of knowledge. But as knowledge increase, then we come to realize the fullness. Yeah, So repatriation is both physical and spiritual. Eyes is eye.
Thanks. Yes, since we now have approached the 2 hours, and we have already reasoned a very long time, give thanks for everyone who is still staying with us. I would then approach my last question, and then maybe Kella with the last input or question afterwards. And then I think we will have to seal this reasoning. Give thanks for everyone taking the time. Bongo wisely, as you have now mentioned, also the brethren before, also the global impact that reparations has. And you mentioned in a speech before that reparation has a healing, of course, first of all for African people of African descent, but also for the whole world, for perpetrators and also the descendants, and then of perpetrators, and then of course for the whole world order. Maybe you can speak on that also now still.
Yes, yeah, well, like His Majesty, when he addressed the League of Nations, world peace, he spoke about, you know. Would have loved to see the world living in peace, in love and harmony, in unity. You see? His Majesty say also, we need to become members of a new race where our allegiance is not to nation or race, but to humanity. You see? So that is the mindset which is required. You know? Yeah, as we move forward, we need to put aside all partiality, all favoritism, whether it be race, creed, or whatever. We need to come together as one, you know. And for that oneness, both sides, both the perpetrators and the victim, need to come to that level of realization that we both need healing. We both are affected. We both are traumatized still. But even the colonizers, with all their arrogance and their pomps and pride and so on, they feel, well, by, you know, they controlling, they have all the resources, they controlling. That peace of mind, they don't have that, you know. Some of them, when they're at home, they're not at peace with themselves, you know. Yeah, but we now, the victims, yes, we're there and we're fighting among ourselves and so on, with, you know, not realizing that we only, you know, as well, keeping the flame of hatred which the colonizers instilled in us. You see? So that's what we keep doing when we fight against one another. We disrespect our brother, our sister. You know, we do have love for one another. You know, we perpetuating the same negative energies. You see? So both of us, as I say, needs healing so that we could have a peaceful world. It is imperative that both the African people as well as the perpetrators, they need healing too. They cannot be so arrogant and pompous and feel, well, they're all right. And no, they will never be at peace with themselves. And we are seeing it happening, and we are seeing there are people from the colonizers' side, descendants of the colonizers, who have come to that realization that, yes, their ancestors committed a tremendous crime against another set of people. And some of them are trying to reach out now, you know. Because, for example, in Grenada, there was a Trevelyan family, you know, who their ancestors owned slave plantations in Grenada. Now, one of their descendants, in doing research, came upon that. And then so she called her other relatives, other friends, you know, descend relatives from that same root. And I guess they had the discussion, they had their reasonings, until, well, they came up with the idea that they will try to reach out to the Grenada people. So they reach out through the CARICOM Reparations Commission, and then through the Grenada Reparations Committee. They were in Grenada sometime last year. They met with the members of the Reparations Committee. They met with the government. They met with ordinary people, you know, and it's like confession. It's a form of confession for them. They're acknowledging, you know, what their ancestors did, and they're now seeking for redress to heal themselves. You see? So that is very important. within, and even right now, there are other people in England who in similar situation like them, where their ancestors owned plantation, and they now have come together and form a group called Heirs of the Enslavers, and they're looking to encourage the British government itself to acknowledge their role. Because if they, as segment within Europe, now coming to acknowledge that role, then their influence could eventually cause the British government to acknowledge and do run away from that reality. Because that's what they're trying to do now, trying to deny that the UK was engaged in slavery and all them atrocities. You see? So with their people, their own people, coming to that realization, that could inspire them to come to that realization in time to come. And it's the same way, because look, Holland, the King of Holland has already apologized. You see, all now they're having discussions with Suriname and them other colonial states, which was under the Dutch rule. You see? So it's little by little, every mickle makes a muckle. It's one by one, full, every time the basket will eventually be filled, Initially, as we say, the CARICOM government started the initiative, and they thought they would be able, by themselves, be able to achieve a victory, not realizing that this thing is much more massive than they realized. And it was at a CARICOM Reparations Commission meeting, CARICOM Reparations Conference, which took place in Antigua in 2014, that the son of the Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, that's Dr. Julius Garvey, he was present. And he indicated to them, the members of the CARICOM Reparations Commission, that they must acknowledge the role of Rastafari in that struggle. And they should never limit it to just a CARICOM thing. They need to make it, they need to globalize the reparations campaign. And from then now, the CARICOM Reparations Commission has been having dialogue with the Black people in America, in Latin America, as well as on the mainland with the African Union. Right now, the African Union and CARICOM has a day, I think it's September 7th, is African Union CARICOM Day, where, they come together, so that is just a beginning of things to come. So again, with the right faces in the right places, we'll have the right decisions being taken at those forums. So it's very important, that this thing happen. Even now at the Rastafari level, the CRO, in Africa, there is the Rastafari Continental Council, which is a similar grouping like the CRO. And the CRO and the RCC has established a memorandum of understanding, where we agree to work together to assist one another, in facilitating that whole unification. So everything, it have to start somewhere. So the important thing is for us to remain persistent and committed to the cause, and don't just give up. As we say sometimes, I may not be the one to enjoy the final victory, but at least the work that we've done, it has paved the way for the continuation. And the generation coming have somewhere to trod. So that's how we need to look at it. Not like some of them, like how with the politicians, they always want to see things happen in their time, to say it's them do this and it's them do that and so on, Yeah, but the whole reparations issue, it's more of a generational thing. Yeah. So the struggle, the challenges we're going through all now, you know, we've seen a lot of strides have happened, a lot of doors have opened, you know, so eventually probably is our generation coming after will be the ones to really enjoy the fullness of the repatriation in its both physical and spiritual manifestation, you know. There are African countries which have already allocated land for us in the West who want to return. You know, it is happening. There are brethren and sisters who have returned, you know. So it's a process in motion. And we just, as Marcus Garvey said, remain confident in the victory of good over evil. Rastafari.
Give thanks. Maybe just a quick follow-up on what you said, that also the descendants of colonialists and colonialists have to, you said, heal from their arrogance, maybe even we can say from the wickedness and from all of that. And before you said that Rastafari is contributing to that denying of the false self, the ego. How you see Rastafari can contribute that now? We just have now the reggae music over all the world and the influence of Rastafari message and philosophy. And as you explained before, it can help this to overcome that ego. And as you said, the colonizers, the descendants of colonizers, European hegemony, and so on, has to overcome that arrogance. How do you see Rastafari impact globally to contribute to that? Give thanks.
Well, yeah, well, globally, as we say, you know, we have to be organized. So you have to start from the bottom, come up. You know, within our different localities, wherever we exist, that's where we have to start it, manifesting it. You know, and then as we unify the movement, you know, then it will get that global outlook. You know, but it have to start from the grassroots and go up to the top. So yeah, that's how it have to start. Yeah.
Give thanks. And we just had now also a message in the chat by Ras Benaya from Kenya. He's giving thanks for the reasoning and apologies that he was not able to join the reasoning, but he gives thanks. And he says these works are healing and mean a lot for the generation that will liberate Africa, as well as right the wrongs done by the perpetrators of colonialism. And he gives thanks for the reasoning. Yes, give thanks. As we are now well advanced in time, maybe Kella still have maybe a last input or question or on this reasoning. Give thanks.
Give thanks. Well, my last statement can be very simple and pure. Give thanks to the Institute of African History for this particular platform, which is called Rastafarian Reasoning. Give thanks for Brother Nati for having the opportunity to work in such an institution that Rastafarian have the opportunity to bring in the ideas, philosophy, problems, and solutions. Give thanks to Bongo Wisely for taking an effort to highlight us and give us such a brilliant and so constructive input on repatriation, reparation, and plus many other things. I would say give thanks to all the listeners and maybe also give thanks for those who tried and couldn't succeed. And give thanks for Almighty Jah Rastafari. Reparation and repatriation is a strong topic that is burning my heart, body, and soul. And I am a victim of one of a victim out of thousands or millions people. This healing and discussion was a healing to me because as I'm a victim of repatriation, reparation, I migrated from St. Lucia, the diaspora. I migrated to Europe And I went, decided, okay, it's migration, integration. I integrated, and I realized repatriation is ahead of me. I thought, well, reparation was a topic that the Rastafarian was not really challenging in the past years or 15, 20 years, but now reparation is very strong. I have taken repatriation more personally before we had all these organizational structures, organization, even when the different authorities didn't want to hear the word repatriation or reparation. I decided everyone have to find his own way how to do it. I thought migrating to Europe would give me a better chance to repatriate to Africa. And I thought, okay, I'm on the right path. I tried. I have been going to Africa 6 different times, and I have still not have seen that I'm on repatriation. Why? Because our repatriation is not a one-man movement. When I reach Africa for the 5th time I have been there, the things I see on ground with the different brethren who migrated or went there on repatriation, that there is no preparation, no education, no platform, or even strengthen those kind of philosophies in Africa, where I realize reparation, repatriation is, as you said, what is on heaven is on earth. But being on earth, it is not as easy as being in heaven, because what one think and what one can do is two different things. And what I'm seeing now is those kind of platform, like where we are discussing reparation, repatriation, is a great healing for me to really fully grasp the whole movement, because I believe, well, repatriation would be just being Rastafarian. I prepared myself, I would say, for the past 40 something years. I've been preparing. I have been trying to go in and out with the individual perspective and concepts, the different fights we had between mansions and mansions, the different struggle between colonial powers, and the individual challenges between camps and camps, brethren. Because when we started Rastafarian, the only thing we had was our drums, our chalice, and a few words of Jah Rastafarian. Now we can sit in Europe and have a platform discussing reparations. So I find we are having a massive improvement in terms of what Rastafarian doing. But I individually seeing personally that I can be progressive in my own ways, but as Rastafarian, that there's a lot to be done. But give thanks that we have people like you still there to mold us, to educate us. And as some people might say, education is not what the colonial masters give us as education. These are the things, what we call education, the things we are discussing now. The other things we got in school was demoralization. So I'm very happy now. I'm preparing for repatriation, and I can get this, be involved in those kind of platforms, discussion, that I can be educated and know what is reparation or repatriation or serving Haile Selassie in its own way, in my own single individual way. Give thanks to Rastafarian, give thanks to viewers, give thanks to the country.
Yes, I give thanks. Give thanks for all who have joined, especially, of course, Ras Kelawala and Bongo Wisely for sharing and all the input. And of course, the last word, and then maybe I can seal us up with a prayer. The last word, of course, goes Bongo Wisely, our guest lecturer today at the Rastafari Reasonings on African Historical Perspective project at the Department of African Studies of the University of Vienna. Give thanks.
Yes, I give thanks, Rastafari. Yes, well, before I seal up, I want to give thanks for Brother Dominik for that opportunity, and Brother Kella, give thanks again, for the occasion to where I could share some of my testimonies, my liberty, my life with the wider community, I give thanks for that opportunity. I hope that whatever one's here, it would be an inspiration to them and something that will take them further in their journey as they seek self-realization, as they seek liberty, as they seek freedom, liberation, and all, So give thanks again, you know, for the opportunity, my brother. Yeah, man. Yes, well, as we look to seal up, let me give thanks again to His Majesty for everything that was said and done here at the Saiwa. We do pray, Almighty I, that I would continue to shower thy richest blessings upon I and I. Bless Brother Dominik and Brother Kella as they continue on that journey to educate the wider community of African Rastafari and Africans' perspective. We give thanks for all those who are able to tune in. We do hope that they would have learned something which would better their life as they move forward. Ilai, Selassie, Rastafari. As we see I and I, we lift up I and I eyes unto the hills from whence cometh I and I help. I and I help cometh from the Most High, Haile Selassie, who I rated Zion and the earth. The I will not suffer I and I foot to be moved. Him that keepeth I and I shall not slumber. Behold, him that keepeth Ethiopia shall neither slumber nor sleep. For the eyes I and I keeper, the eyes I and I shade upon I and I right hand. By the eye protection, the sun shall not smite I and I by day, nor the moon by night. The eye shall preserve I and I from all evil. The eye shall preserve I and I life. The eye shall preserve I and I yarding out and I yarding in, from this Iowa unto that Iowa, and even forever and forever. Ilai, Selassie, Rastafari, and do cause the holy divine countenance to shine upon I and I, and bless and sanctify and protect I and cause I and I to yard free from the hands of the enemies. And may these words of I and I mouth and the meditations of I and I heart ever be humble and acceptable in the eyesight. Ilai, Selassie, Rastafari. Perfect love. I am.
Give thanks.